You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. And if you're an employee in this market, in this job market, in this economy, you could very well find your options limited. Whereas if you're an entrepreneur, you become the only limit of your options. Well, person you're about to hear from, he is a 4-time winner of Entrepreneur of the Year. Gould, you've worked with big companies and you work with small companies. You've got a best-selling book called Blueprint for Success. And also your first best-selling book was The 7 Stages of Small Business Success. So you worked with big companies, you worked with medium-sized, and you work with small. But right now, your focus is on small businesses and medium. Hey, by the way, if you've got any questions for Carl, you're an entrepreneur and you want to know how to take it to the next level, just send me an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. So on that note, Carl, it's great to have you on. So entrepreneurism, those who can do, those who can't teach, those who can't teach teachers. But that's the way it is in academia. But in the real world here in business, probably the best teachers are those who actually have succeeded in business. Isn't that true?
Well, yeah, they not only do they have the experience and they have succeeded, but they can translate that to get done through others and not just on their own. So what's important, some of the greatest, think of some of the greatest athletes, some of the greatest ball players. Very few of them have ever done any coaching, mentoring after that, because they can't always translate what they did to another person. So it's really important that it's really important to be successful in business, that not only can you do it or you're willing to roll up your sleeves and make it happen, but at the same time, you can translate and deconstruct how you did something and explain it to another person in a way that they can take action and you can duplicate your efforts.
So let me ask you a question. What do you like doing better, being an entrepreneur, starting up new businesses, expanding existing ones, or do you prefer to teach people what you did so they can learn how to do it themselves?
Well, I would have answered this differently in different stages of my career. I don't actually separate those two all that much, meaning in entrepreneurship, if I start a business and I launch a business or we buy a business, first thing I do is I bring the team around and I say, here's the vision, here's where we're headed, and here's how we're going to get it done. And then I assign roles and I say, you're president, you're COO, you're CFO, you're the chief revenue officer, or you're just the person in charge of sales, or you're the person who's in charge of the front counter, whether it's a title or just, practical what they're doing. And then I've got to teach them how they can be successful on their own. So earlier in my career, I would have told you that I enjoyed teaching others so they can do it for themselves. And the reason why I would have said that, Kerry, is early on in the coaching industry, very early on in the coaching industry, I wrote a number of methodologies that are now widely used in the coaching and consulting and mentoring world. And so since I was one of the earlier pioneers in how to have a full-time 6-figure plus coaching practice, there was a lot of demand for me to show others how to do it. So I was so passionate at the time, and still am, about showing other people how they can have their own coaching business, that for me, I got a real charge out of showing others how they can be in their own coaching business, and it could be their primary source of revenue. That, there was a joke at the time that you had to keep a full-time job so you could feed your coaching addiction. Right? Because you couldn't make enough money as a coach, and so you needed to have a full-time job. So that was a joke in the early days. That's not a joke anymore. People run 6- and 7-figure plus businesses as coaches and coaching companies. And back then, I would have said, I prefer to teach others to do it because we were making a mark in the industry. Now, I would say I enjoy the entrepreneurship role equal, if not better, because I get to start businesses, I get to create jobs, I get to buy and turn around businesses, and so I get to use my coaching skills in a whole new way.
Hey, and I guess it's really got to be gratifying when you help somebody who maybe wasn't on the proper path to success, maybe was on the brink of failure. Maybe would have just muddled along for a decade, not knowing what to do until you came into the picture.
Right. So that's still one of the things that we do a lot of now is we take a business currently where it's at, and we show them ways to grow, to differentiate, to increase their pricing, to be more profitable, to be more efficient, in a way that they might not have noticed before. Because we like to say that we're out as advisors, we're outside the jar, so we can read the label. You're inside the jar running the business, so you can't read the label. So we can give you a perspective that you wouldn't have normally had, and by doing that, we can shorten the learning curve. We can get you to a place where you could not have gotten the business on your own. So to me, you're absolutely right. That's very gratifying that we can help them in that way.
So you've been in a number of businesses besides coaching. What was the one that you liked and enjoyed the most? You found the most gratifying?
Well, when I started my landscaping company, it was my very first business. And I kind of proved to myself that I can play at this level. I can play at the professional level. So while I can't say landscaping was my life's calling or it was my passion, I really did enjoy it. It was outside. It was physical. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And at the same time, I kind of got on the entrepreneurial map. So I hold a special place in my heart for landscaping, that landscaping business I did. My next company was a construction company, and of all the businesses I've ever run, I've ever owned, I've ever managed, construction is by far and away the most complex. The hardest business to be successful in. It's the most complex. So I feel proud that I was able to be successful at it, started it, launched it, grew it, sold it. But in the end, the company that I enjoy the most is the one that I'm doing now, which is my coaching, speaking, authoring, advising side of my business.
So coaching, yeah, I understand.
Coaching
construction
was my calling.
Coaching is your calling, but you had to go through the other industries before you knew enough to share your experience with prospective clients, right?
Yeah, and I'm all the better for those experiences. I'm a better coach today because of the experiences I had before. So like I said, I needed to go through that in order to have what I have today.
Yeah, of course. So somebody comes to see you, they need coaching. Well, how do you find them, first of all, or do they find you?
It's a little bit more they find me, although I get a fair amount of the business opportunities through the speaking engagements that I do. So I have a pretty rigorous, keynote speaking business. I speak at a lot of association events, mastermind forums, group meetings, trade shows, both virtual and in person. And so I meet a lot of entrepreneurs and I meet a lot of coaches that way in the audience. And those tend to be how I find people. And then I'm very active on social media. And as a result, they find me that way.
All right. So now we're in the age of COVID, the age of pandemics. Government's doing all sorts of crazy things to shut down legitimate entrepreneurs. What's your business been like since then?
Well, COVID, I wish the circumstances were different, of course, but COVID has been a plus for our business in that it's really shined a light on what we do and the value that we bring, because this correction was the most ruthless and unforgiving correction I've ever seen. I've been in business since 1985. I go back that far in business, but I haven't seen anything like this in our lifetime. And so And so nobody knew how to respond. They were like, well, what do we do? What's next? Are we going to be in business and all that? And look, people are predictable. Pandemics are predictable. Data over the last, few pandemics has been relatively consistent, and it turned out to be consistent here as well. So we were able to be kind of like the port in the storm for our clientele, because we had done advanced research on how do these pandemics tend to go, how do we tend to get in them, how do we go through them, how do we get out of them, and what is post-pandemic life like? And so we were able to give some guidance that helped our clients very well during the course of the pandemic. And, and it proved out that the advice we gave was correct. And I'm proud to say that 100% of our clientele all outperformed this pandemic economy.
That's great. So just share with us some of the things your study of pandemics helped you advise clients with.
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Osino Resources is a Ross Beatty-backed gold exploration company in mining-friendly Namibia. Osino's district-scale land package is situated near 2 producing gold mines, one of which Osino's management team previously developed and sold to B2 Gold. Osino's founders and management are experienced mining professionals who have already successfully developed and sold 2 companies in the past 7 years. Osino has an excellent shareholder base, with Ross Beatty owning 20%, insiders 5%, and Resource Capital Funds 8%. This is an exploration company with drills turning that you'll definitely want to pay attention to. Osino trades in New York under the ticker OSIIF and in Toronto under the ticker OSI. To learn more, go to osinoresources.com. That's osinoresources.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Well, so first things first is during a pandemic, you have to stay open no matter what. Now that sounds easy, like, well, wait a minute, I'm a restaurant. Wait a minute, the government said I have to shut down. No, what the government told you was you can't accept patrons into your location. That's what they told you. So if you're a gym, you're holding classes in the parking lot. If you're doing them virtually. If you're a restaurant, you buy a food truck and you go to the neighborhoods, or you do curbside, or you let people drive into your parking lot, put a DJ underneath the front door awning, and you let people, eat in your parking lot. And so people during a pandemic remember the companies that attempted to the best of their ability to stay open and service the community. The people that closed for whatever the reason, doesn't matter why, when it's all over, they're going to remember the ones that stayed open and not closed. And we're seeing that already. Hey. Companies that stayed open are coming back faster. They're winning back market share, and they're stealing clients from their competitors. Number 2 is that during a pandemic, people rush towards authority figures. So if you build your thought leadership during a pandemic, and you continue to, if not ramp up the amount of content that you put out that is authority driven. Number 3 is, during a pandemic, you can have pricing discounts, and you can work with people, but you don't have to go crazy. Discounting your price, because in this pandemic, for the first time in American history, the balance sheets of banks and homeowners were never stronger. There was pent-up demand. Interest rates were the lowest in history, and unemployment was actually very low. So there was all this money waiting for the opportunity to spend. So we said to our clients, overorder on all of your parts and materials so your supply chain doesn't break down. All right, and that proved out to be right. And the last one was create the VIP experience. During a pandemic and what follows, people go for what's called the small indulgence. They don't go for the mega indulgence. Right. So the day you were allowed to go outside, you didn't drive or fly to Disney World overnight, but you went to your local hatchet throwing location. You went to your local bowling alley, ice skating rink. You did a small one day or one weekend indulgence or adventure. So, so people want to know that they're welcome back and they're treated to a VIP experience. Well, you can give that to just about anybody. If you're a retail establishment and you open 9 to 5, say you're open by appointment only, during certain hours or after hours. Right. And then, if you're a service organization, we told people you have to have an off hour, touchless, contactless, service. Yeah, you have to offer that, because that's not only for now, that's for after the pandemic is over.
Yeah, and hey, if you've got wipes and hand disinfectant, display it prominently, right?
Gotta have it everywhere,
Yeah.
so you can at least you can work at least let people know that you're on it. Because everyone has different views on masks and sanitizing and social distance. That's fine. But everybody has the same feeling when it comes to, is the vendor trying? So it's one thing to not enforce the mask rule, but if you have them hanging there, if you've got the signs laid out, if you've got the hand sanitizing stations there, they at least know you're trying.
So I just have to share with you, in Florida here where I live, how a lot of restaurants made lemonade from lemons. So in Florida, obviously, it's a lot easier to have outdoor dining, depending upon the location. In downtown Miami Beach, very difficult because you don't have a lot of outdoor seating. But in restaurants all over the state, most places have outdoor seating. And if they didn't, they were allowed to put up tents over parking areas and allowed to expand whatever outdoor seating they already had by about 50%, depending which county, in Palm Beach County. And what I actually saw was restaurants actually having more seating available after the pandemic because they were able to expand outside without any government restrictions. They had all these relaxed restrictions on how many tables you could have. So restaurants that were able to survive the lockdown, and most of them did, actually had more outdoor seating and more business as a result of it. Most restaurants were doing takeout, but the problem with takeout, even though they allowed takeout alcohol service, which they don't, never allowed before. The problem was that when you're taking out, you just don't drink as much, order as much alcohol as when you're in the restaurant. But, as a result, we saw these companies, these restaurants turn lemons into lemonade and expand their businesses in the process. Now, certain municipalities are making them scale back the outdoor dining. But the fact is, like you said, stay open no matter what.
You've got to be showing that you're going to do whatever it takes to service that community. Because anything short of that will look like you're servicing the community out of convenience, even if it's not your intent. And I know it's unfair, but even if you can't be seen to be a vendor only through convenience, you've got to show full commitment. Yeah,
that's really so true. So all of your consulting clients survived the pandemic, huh? That's a pretty substantial, pretty interesting accomplishment there.
Well, thank you. I mean, they worked really hard to maintain that, and kudos to them for really hanging in there. I mean, the reality is that what we learned was that COVID magnified the problems in your business. They didn't create them.
Yeah, that's
is the reality.
True.
It's just, and it magnified the flaw either in your management style or in the business model itself. And so, COVID was a great wake-up call to say, all right, what do we need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again? And what do we need to do to button up the holes in either our management style or our product mix or our business model? And so this doesn't happen again. So the best thing to do is take it from that standpoint,
Yeah. And that was so wise. I mean, look, you can debate the whole government response to it, the lockdowns, the limitations, all of this. And you can point to the states that are doing far better who didn't do it, such as Florida, Texas, and other states. But the fact is, that doesn't do you any good. If you're in New York and, you're locked down, you got to come up with something else or you're going to be out of business. Unfortunately, New York is probably the hardest hit because of the dense population. And now you walk down the street, there's every third or fourth store is closed up. So if you were one of those entrepreneurs that didn't follow your advice, Carl, what do you say to that person?
Well, it's a tough conversation because it's not an easy choice. And if you're, for some people, COVID was, a wake-up call to them that they shouldn't be in the business that they're in, or maybe entrepreneurship isn't for them, or maybe they've had a long career and they realize, you know what, I'm not up for another recovery and another disruption in the economy and another turnaround. And if that's the case, then, hopefully the exit you can make would be a graceful one. If your commitment is to your business, to your clientele, and you want to survive, there really is a path forward to do it. Take advantage of every government stimulus program that is available. Prior to last year, it's rare that I would have said this, but this is something. The stimulus programs that we have seen thus far, the government really got right. Mm-hmm. They got money as quickly as a government could get money back to you. And it's never going to be enough. Don't get me wrong. But the PPP, the EIDL loans, the stimulus checks, those were helpful. Were they game savers? Not in all cases. But look, there are, you now learned what entrepreneurship is all about in this past year, because, it was truly survival of the committed. You didn't have to be the strongest. You didn't have to be the fastest. You didn't have to be the smartest, but you had to be the most committed. And if you were willing to hustle, I never worked, Kerry, so hard in my life as I did last year. I worked double the amount of time for less money, right? Than I ever have in my life. But we demonstrated our commitment. And I said to our team, I said, we're not going down and we're not letting any one of our clients go down. Well, so whatever it takes, I'm not asking any of you to do something you don't feel you don't want to do, but this is where 7-Stage Advisors is going. Nobody goes down on our watch. Period. End of story. And we made that commitment. We made it very clear in the beginning. So by doing that, we got through. It wasn't pretty. We weren't, there's some things that didn't work out, but overall, that's what has to happen. And if you're an entrepreneur, you have to look at COVID and just say, this is one more challenge I have to overcome, and I got to figure it out, because you know what? Someone else is going to figure it out. And if they figure it out and you don't, they got you. And that's what this game is all about. And so COVID, I think, was a true test of how committed you are to your business, to entrepreneurship, to your client community.
Yep. Couldn't agree with you more. Carl, really inspiring to have you on. Really great to just tell us, where do we find you? How do we connect with you on the internet?
Sure. So go to carlgould.com, and that's the gateway for all the things that I do. You could also check out our business site, www.7stageadvisors.com. And on there, Kerry, for all of your listeners, if they'd like to take us up on it, is we offer a free business analysis. It's up to 2 hours with a growth advisor, and we will provide you. We'll do an analysis of your business and show you the growth potential of your company as it exists right now. And at the end, we'll give you up to 5 growth strategies for your business. They want to take us up on it.
That sounds great, and the price is right. So in any event, we would suggest just go over to Carl's site, carlgould.com. Any questions for Carl? If you want to send them to us, kl@kerrylutz.com is the email address. And of course, sign up for our free newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Carl, very inspiring story. And thanks for your contributions in helping to keep people afloat in this most difficult of times. It was not easy, and it really took a lot of willpower and persistence to make it through. But your clients did it, and so did you. So to you, we're grateful. We'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.